Track. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Justin over at Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're living out a high school fantasy. This is his 1998 Pontiac Firebird Formula with a WS6 handling package. In 1998, they swapped from the LT1 V8 to the LS1 thanks to the introduction of the C5 Corvette. Still 5.7 liters, but a gift from the C5 Corvette introduction meant that we were getting more power, more torque, and more tuning capability because everybody loves an LS1. So instead of the non-WS6 package making 305 horsepower, this LS1 WS6 makes 320. However, Justin's massaged this vehicle, so it has been modified. Lots of bolt-ons and a steeper, racier cam give it 405 to the rear wheels. And speaking of rear wheels, and actually front wheels alike, the WS6 package adds handling capability. So you get a retuned suspension, you also get 275 section tires all around on these 17x8 aluminum wheels. It's pretty easy to spot a WS6 by its ram air hood. This is massive, and when we get under there, you're gonna see exactly why it needs to be like that. But this is a Formula, not a Trans Am, so it's a little more bare bones than the more expensive Trans Am. I left the key in the ignition so you could hear that delicious GM chime. We'll just take that out because that's actually going to drive me insane. So first, let's just get under the hood and get it out of the way because it looks absolutely outrageous. There's a bunch of very highly educated looking people over there thinking I'm probably total trash out here in the parking lot in my Trans Am. It's not a Trans Am. I keep wanting to call it that. It's a Formula. It's a Formula. But anyway, there's our LS1, the iconic intake runner. It's pretty easy to spot, but check out the ram air up front. So this enabled Pontiac to make more power from these vehicles back in the day. Sorry for the cutaway, but I forgot to tell you how to tell if this is a real WS6. If you're looking at cars, it's very easy to replicate a WS6 appearance package because you're going to throw on the wheels, the hood, and the badge. But if you're hunting for one of these and you actually want to know, hey, was this originally a WS6? There's a couple things you can do. First things first, you're going to look at this sticker here. Now, obviously, you can take that VIN. You're going to want to cross-reference that. But right there, you're going to see WS6 in the list of packages there. So that's one indicator. The second, if that's missing, because, oof, that's loud. The second is if that's missing, because look, it's already a little peely here. Down here, the tire size should say 275/40 because the WS6 is the only package that came with the 275 section tires. The rest, I believe, were 245s. I could be wrong there, but either way, definitely not 275. So that's just a quick way to check. So check the VIN, check that sticker. If this sticker's gone, check for the 275 section tire on that placard. Back to it. And in the boot, well, you actually get some reasonable space back here, especially if you don't have the T-tops stored, because the T-tops store quite nicely in these little slots right here. There's your passenger and your driver's side. Honestly, I bet this is easier to do than an Aventador Roadster. Not that we're comparing, but you know what? Sometimes these little roofs can be a pain, and this one's actually not. So let's get it started up because you got to hear this thing. I've already lost the key. There we go. Okay. This one is outfitted with a MagnaFlow exhaust with headers as well. So that's one of the reasons why it's able to make a little more power than stock, but it retains the cool chrome tips. I think those are still bigger than they would have been, but it would have had chrome tips in period. So the other thing that I love about this thing, oh, look at that, is that it has pop-up headlights. So it looks super mean in night and day. How do you beat that? How do you beat that? The Camaro didn't have that in this time period, and unfortunately the sales of these Firebirds is kind of what killed them because they only sold 144,000 of these over the course of a few years, whereas Ford sold 145,000 Mustangs in one model year. So just to give you an idea, style-wise, I think it's pretty sleek. It's a Camaro, it is. It's just got a little bit of polished lipstick on it to change it just enough. But you love to see these cool mirrors. They're really swept back and around back. This integrated spoiler into that deck lid is just gorgeous. one thing that I will say that I feel like is gonna anger a lot of people is the rear end of this kind of looks like a Ford Probe to me. There's something very Ford Probe about this, and once it hit me, I can't unsee it. But I'm quite happy to deal with this exhaust over a Ford Probe. This is much nicer. This has a 373 rear end, and we're gonna go exercise its Tremec T56 today. Oh, and also, check out these rear seats. No middle seat back here, but you got these kind of funky buckets. Look at this. Let's see if we can fit in here. Oh man. This feels like what you would have seen as a 17-year-old getting a ride home from football practice from the older kids and being terrified of what they were about to do to you. That's what this has written all over it. And I don't have proof of this, but I'm gonna hypothesize that between 98 and 2002, more 17-year-old boys found out their girlfriends were pregnant from this seat than any other car. It has to be true. And despite all the cheapish feeling switchgear, none of it matters because this Hurst shifter feels fantastic, obviously modified, and who doesn't love a Tremec 6-speed? Super light steering, and the steering wheel feels familiar from any GM car of that era. It's just a thin, like vinyl thing. This cam's great because it's not too lopey. It very much. The thing I love about these cars is how easy they are to drive and how they just integrate as part of you as you're driving them. They don't have this sense of like you have to think too hard. You just grip it and rip it. Watch this, off the line. And it doesn't have traction control. No wheel hop on it, it just lays it down and goes. There's even a trick little switch under the dash here for line lock because Justin's dad bought this new and actually used it at the drag strip occasionally and did the 13 5/4 mile that it was claimed to do before it was all tuned up. I'll admit its bark is a little bigger than its bite. It sounds absurd, but it hooks up and it does its job. It's just that it maybe isn't like the fastest thing in the world, but we do have a long nose, so be nice and gentle over this. school varsity football. Oh my God. Actually, we'll go to the next one. It's got a bit of diff whine. And before you're wondering, like, wait, it's running a little cold. No, it does have a pretty intense thermostat on it, so that's normal. Owner has said that's the way she runs. We are plenty warm. Playful this rear end is, and it has the right amount of torque. So when we were getting in there, you start feeding throttle, it rotates a little bit, and you just kind of dial it for the rotation. And it's not so much that if you plant your foot, you're just going to loop it and die. I mean, you might if you were 17 and you didn't really know how to manage it. No offense to 17-year-olds, some of you are friggin' Formula 1 drivers, but just statistically. It down with some reasonable distance to be nice people. We got to respect the drive and the other drivers, but oh my God, this is satisfying. Drivability. Oh, this is good. This is easy to drive. Justin actually put like the stock clutch back in, and it's very light and manageable and easy, and it's holding all of the torque that this thing is putting down. I've got no beef with this. This shifter is great. I feel like the second, third gate is maybe, I don't want to say vague, but like third is always the one where I'm like, all right, I hope I'm there. I hope that's right. So, you know, you just got to get used to it a little bit. Nothing terrible. Steering. Very light. In fact, I think the WS6 package actually added a power steering cooler to the package, which I assume is because it was track focused and they wanted you to be able to make more steering adjustments like you were on a racetrack or something without any troubles. Brakes. I believe in 98 these also got slightly bigger brakes, and they feel just peachy. Really into cars that have a big bark lately, like loud cars, and not necessarily like, oh, a BMW with some exhaust on it. No, I like a small block Chevy. I want this. I want like a 5.7 liter that's very shouty and barky and gives me all the fizz to row through a close ratio gearbox and just feel like I'm driving, you know? It's hard to find this. It's really hard to find this, and that's why I think values of cars like this are starting to go up, just because there is something really special about this experience now, because it's kind of gone. What a notchy little gearbox this is. Feels great. people like to walk their dogs around blind corners here, so we just got to be cautious. Back in, I want to say 2010-ish era, I was on a road trip with a bunch of my friends. We went up through Vermont, New Hampshire, and at one point we stayed in a cabin very close to the border of Canada. One of my friends brought his Pontiac Firebird WS6. I can't remember if it was a Trans Am or a Formula, but we ran out of beer, okay? Early in the night. I hadn't been drinking, so they sent me off to go get beer. They said, Tom, take the Trans Am. Or I guess it was a Trans Am. Take the Firebird. So I did, and I had never driven one before, and it was nighttime, and I rip out of this little area. I'm on this road thinking, okay, I'm gonna go find a convenience store, a gas station, and I could see some lights in the distance. So I got in the thing, and I'm ripping around, winding through these roads, and I get to where the lights are, and that's when I realized it wasn't a gas station. It was the Canadian border, and there were these huge lights there, and I said, oh my God. So I went to make a U-turn, but I didn't. I was like, shoot, I'm not gonna make it. And I went to find reverse, and I couldn't see this little shift pattern thing here, but reverse in this car is essentially 7th gear. It's next to 5th. That's really weird to me as a BMW and Volkswagen and even like 350Z guy. I was like, where the heck is reverse? So eventually I had just enough room that I just threw it in first and did a donut and ripped out of there because I didn't know how else to turn around. And no one ever came after me, but I did have to do a donut at the Canadian border once in one of these, and it was one of my favorite moments, and I just really fell in love with these cars that night. Gently get around this fella. It turns into a bit of a hooligan, because what's nice about these kind of American cars like this is that they can take it. They're built. They've got strong rear ends. They've got strong gearboxes. You do this in a BMW and it's like, it's over, man. You've destroyed the car. Yeah, man, this thing handles like it's more than just a little straight line burnout machine. It's really satisfying. Like, it makes me want to go drive. It's bringing back all the joys of driving. Who knew? Who knew this was such a powerful little beast? Emotionally, I mean, I knew it had power. Oh my God, I don't want to bring this back. I'm having a really good time. I'm shocked at how well this thing just handles. And I know that Justin's put in some, modified suspension pieces in here. So maybe it's a testament to what he's done to this car. But this is a real joy. I mean, sure, it has ABS, but it doesn't have traction control. And it feels like the end of an era where this car only weighs 3,500 pounds. It's not that heavy. But I think this car would surprise a lot of people on a racetrack. It's surprising me right now. So I'm gonna go bring this thing back to Bond Group and high five Justin, because this is the coolest. And he's selling it, maybe. But if I needed, and I do, if I needed a car like this, this is the one I would buy. Maybe I buy this from Justin and we do some crazy adventures in the Firebird. I really like this a lot. I'm finding this to be very exciting, very charming. So I'm looking at this Chevy Colorado Z71, and I'm struck by how GM products have managed to brand their option packages, their RPOs, because we've got Z06, ZL1, Z28, Z71, WS6. It's unbelievable. I can't think of another car company that has branded their packages in that way. And they become a sub-brand all their own. That's really neat and impressive, frankly. And I like that they own that. Maybe Porsche with like an X50 package for 996 turbo, but even that, I think that's inside baseball. I feel more patriotic than ever driving this car right now. This is as American as it gets, and I'm getting a taste of what it might have been like had I been a wealthy kid in the early 2000s with parents who wanted me to look cool more than they wanted me to survive. I think your kid may not have made it if they had this as their daily driver at 17. Anyway, thanks to Justin for tossing me the keys. I know this is like a fairly important car in his life, because this has been around since he was a little kid. His dad bought it new, and they've got the window sticker. I think it was $26,000 or $27,000 new. I'll put the picture of that on there. I'm blown away by how much fun this is. I know they've put a lot of love in it. I know they've taken care of it. I know not all of them are this good, but if you get a chance to drive a well-sorted WS6 Firebird, I highly recommend it. And don't bring your checkbook if you don't want to buy it, because, well, you might make an offer. So, thank you so much for watching, liking. There's that third to fifth gate. Sometimes I walk into it a little bit, but anyway. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. This road is closed, and do I really want to go through here? What a pain. Okay, we'll take the detour. And maybe these guys will appreciate the Firebird. Well, I guess we gotta wake the neighbors on the detour. This car just makes you kind of a psycho. By the way, my favorite movie is Death Proof, so if that tells you anything about how much I love cars like this. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Tell me your Pontiac stories. I think Pontiac owners have great stories. I'm always fascinated because there's so much love for the brand, and there's so many crazy people out there who did crazy things in their Pontiacs over the years, and man, it's a bummer this isn't around anymore. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.